And then this white being appears in front of me. It's made of white light. His heart is a blazing blue star, and his face is Jesus. I just knew it was Jesus. And I was surprised because I wasn't a Christian. So I'm saying, oh no, are you sure you want to talk to me? I'm looking over my shoulder. Like, are you sure? You sure you come for me? So we had this conversation in my head telepathically. And he said, because your heart is pure, if you want to, you can stay with us here in the golden light. But, there's always a but, we're asking you to go back.
Jesus got, his hair is like coppery color. Not brown, it's not black. It's like coppery. Beautiful color. And his hair is up to his shoulders here. He's dark. Probably a little darker than me. Maybe not. It's like Middle Eastern type of look. When I saw Jesus, like in person like that, he was walking and faced me. He had brown eyes, beautiful brown eyes. But when he turned around and he opened his arms for that light to hit me, he's got blue eyes. Now his eyes were completely different.
And I was weeping and I was telling him that I was sorry I didn't do enough for him, that I didn't tell enough people how much that he loved them. So at this point, he walked past me. He had on this beautiful white robe. And he said to me, Renee, there's so much unforgiveness in the world. And he then told me, he said, my children are perishing because they're not reading my word. And I said, well, there's so much corruption of your word. And he then told me, he said, my children are perishing because they're not reading my word. And I said, well, there's so much corruption of your word. He said, my children are perishing because they're not reading my word. He said, my children are perishing because they're not reading my word.
But his eyes, just so much love and light and beauty. He's very handsome. And I'd say about 6 foot, maybe a little less, and just regular size, slender. And he had on like a white robe with a blue sash. And I saw his bare feet and his skin's bronze, just not real dark, but just kind of middle. And his, but just I was just looking into his eyes was everything. I mean, just so many waves of love was just beaming off him. He's just saturating me with it.
And he looked just like the pictures in the Bible. And whether that's the way I expected him to look is why he looked that way, I don't know, but that's how he looked to me.
Oh, he doesn't look like our pictures. He looks, his skin tone is more towards the olive green kind of color, more Arabic in color. He has a nose, not a little finite, tiny little nose like we depict in the pictures we have. And he looks very strong. I mean, he looked like someone that said, wow, you were either a carpenter or you were a mason, and because you look strong. But his eyes, they were like, I want to say they glowed like gold, or like this amazing hazel blue gold kind of color.
And Jesus Christ himself walked into my living room now. And he looked exactly like I had seen the pictures in the books and the Bibles. He was a Caucasian man with shoulder-length brown hair and a short brown beard. He had brown eyes. He was wearing a white robe.
I think Jesus disguises himself as the person that you love the most so that you're not scared. Because I'm going to tell you what, once I saw him there, I was not scared whatsoever. And I thought that was very, very thoughtful of them to make that, like, they come. I don't know who, but they come when you die and they help you.
And I felt in my heart that I was supposed to go back to my earth life and tell people what I knew and tell them that death is not real. Nobody really dies. You must tell them there is no death. And at the time, I didn't know who this was, but I think it was Jesus.
And there was another man standing next to me, and I knew immediately it was Christ. And I was looking down at his feet, and I kept coming up higher and higher, and I was coming up to his face. And when I got to his face, I couldn't see any facial features.
And I turned to my side, and I see white robes standing next to my bed. And then I looked up. Holy moly, that's Jesus. And he was looking at me with intense blue eyes that I've never seen anybody with with those blue eyes.
A chief walked out, very huge feathers, it was not even the way we see it on TV portrayed in history books. No, it was a very unique outfit. And he walked out, and I remember he just kept staring at me, and his eyes, the one thing I remember the most was his eyes, very intense look, just looking at me quietly. And I remember asking him, like, who are you? And he just stayed quiet. And the only thing he did was extend his hands out. And when he extended his hands out, I noticed he had holes in his hands. And I looked at his hands and I'm like, that looks very familiar. Where have I seen that? And I grew up Catholic, but the fact that at that moment it didn't dawn on me, it was weird that I couldn't figure it out. I was very foggy in the head. And I just remember saying, I feel like I need to trust you.
It takes a lot for me to say this, especially in public. But I saw a man, tall, good-looking, long white robes, and an auburn beard.
Very clearly delineated was a Syrian mountain man. And he looked an awful lot like Jesus. He looked to be about 15.
Just saying. I'm just saying, guys, he looked an awful lot like Jesus up there. Just so you know.
Clearly delineated was a Syrian mountain man. And he looked an awful lot like Jesus.
An awful lot like him.
He
Just
looked
saying.
to be about 15 feet tall, long hair, beard.
Again, 15 feet tall. Why does Jesus have to be towering over people or spirits? That's an intimidation tactic. You know, you can argue with me till the cows come home, but that's intimidating, right? Someone has that experience. They're being towered over by a 15-foot Jesus. That's intimidating.
I felt there were many Jesuses, and there was one, but there were many who came with the same beliefs. But there was people who believed in Jesus and Buddha and stuff like that, and they may see him, and for that entity or that spirit, they believe who they are. That's what they believe. So they exist, and also because people believe in that, you can create entities somehow that exists because of your belief in that system, because you're such a god that whatever you think on the other side, you can create. You're such a god that whatever you think on the other side, you can create. You're such a god that whatever you think on the other side, you can create.